All right. We know you guys got busy schedules, so let's go ahead and get to it. If you want to fade on out here, Travis, I appreciate you. Okay, guys. Well, what wins are we having today? What good news do we want to share? I'm seeing a lot of people in their homes or offices. I'm wondering if people are snowed in a little bit today. So, but what good news is happening, guys? Just either type it in the chat, unmute. Even if it's a small win, we want to celebrate it.
I'll go first. I was just looking back over numbers earlier this week, and December, January, February are usually our slow months, but we are exceeding we're not having a slow month yet. So I think all this stuff has helped. Joining you guys has really helped us. Our phone is ringing more. We're getting more jobs. We're kind of fine tuning that stuff, but we're busier than what I expected. So that's a big win for me. And we're working on our profitability. So that's even better thing. So 2025 starting off pretty well.
That is awesome. Love to hear it, Jason, and love, you're always going to have a slower season, but we love doing things to make that slower season even busier than in the past. And that's just going to set up your busy season. So appreciate you being such a diligent doer.
That is awesome, Jason. Congrats on that. That's really, really cool on all accounts.
Yeah. Jeff, I see your hand up. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I just started with you guys. So I've got 3 5-star Google reviews so far, and I got my first lead from Google. So
let's go.
It's a small job, but I'm meeting with them tomorrow to go over the estimate, and that's something that Nicole. That's something that you recommended I do is go over the estimates with them in person.
Yes.
So tomorrow will be the first person who's actually taken me up on that and not just had me email it to them. So
that's exciting. It's exciting.
Good way to start the year. But yeah, so that's my win for now. Thank you.
That's a huge win, Jeff, and so much more to come from that. Does anybody here give estimates in person or made that switch and wants to kind of talk or testify to what that looked like for you, starting to give estimates in person?
We're just starting to now, so I don't have any results or anything, but we've had our meetings and talked to them, and we're just starting that now.
Nice. Alec, I see your hand up. I think you're muted.
Okay, I got it.
There you are.
Yeah, we always do our estimates in person, and it seems like, it works out pretty good. I've never thought about going, to go in person to go over the estimate with somebody. I mean, that's like a great idea there. So,
yeah, it makes a huge difference. We always say if you don't give that estimate in person, you're robbing yourself of any opportunity to sell. All you're presenting to them is that price because they're not a contractor. They don't know what that price is made out of or what value that is built into that price or what makes you different. And so if I hear clients talk all the time where, unless I'm the lowest one, I don't get the job. And it's like, that's probably because we're not building value. We're not selling. We're just sending a number. And so that's huge. I see a bunch of hands up. I love to see it. Jordan, I saw yours pop up. What's going on?
Oh, you're muted, Jordan.
Hey, so with the in-person estimate, one thing that's kind of happened to me a couple times recently is it seems like there's a higher closing, like the customer accepts it, but I hadn't been getting like deposits. I'd just be like, okay, we'll see you on Friday when we get there. We've had a couple cancel like the night before. And I assume that's because they basically took my estimate and shopped it around. So I would what I'm going to start doing and what I would recommend is if you do an in-person estimate and the person says, great, I want to move forward with you guys, get something down to put them on the schedule. Because otherwise, I mean, it's happened twice and twice is too many for me where like the night before they're canceling.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And if you charge a trip fee or an estimate fee, this isn't always applicable for my remodelers, but for my service guys, it is. You got to let them know, hey, if you decide not to move forward with us, that is going to result in the $90 trip fee or whatever it is, because that fee covers getting a licensed, insured expert to your door to give you an accurate and detailed estimate. Now that fee is waived if you decide to move forward with us. But if they cancel last minute, okay, well now we're going to invoice you for that estimate that we gave you. And so doing that or collecting a deposit, especially if you're a remodeler or if you're doing a big install where you have to buy a big chunk of material, we got to make sure that the money stays ahead of the work. So if they commit to it, they say, yes, let's get a deposit down. That's huge. Great advice. Michael, I saw your hand up here.
You talking about me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, my estimates are always in person as far as going initial estimate. And a lot of times when we're trying to figure out what the customer's looking for to get done, I usually just would say, okay, well, something like this will cost normally this much money. And I kind of just get a feel for where their head is when I see their facial expressions. And I say, okay, well, if that's something that you feel like you don't want to do just yet, then maybe we can adjust it accordingly. But this is kind of where we're at with the numbers, and I can get something together because mine's through QuickBooks. So all my estimates are usually emailed to customers. So I would get an idea and I say, okay, well, I'll put you in my QuickBooks and then I'll add you to it and I'll send you an estimate. And then I'll just do it from there where I'll just, and I usually text after I send the estimate saying, hey, it's in your inbox, just so you know. You might find it in your spam folder. And if you have any questions or whatever, please feel free to give me a call or contact me. And usually, but see, I'm not usually dealing with customers that this is my first time. So I don't really, with leads and things like that, it's always referrals. So usually I'm already, in when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I usually don't have to worry too much about follow-up. It's usually at that point, it's just like, okay, that's great. When can you start? And I usually would then tell them, well, as soon as I receive a deposit, we'll put you on the schedule and then we'll come out and take care of it for you.
Yep.
So
yeah, with referrals and word of mouth, those are going to be your warmest leads. Everyone will be a lot closer to closing, but we would definitely recommend as best practice doing the in-person delivery of your estimates. You always want to, at the very least, set the expectation of when you're going to interact with them again, because it's become kind of common industry standard to a lot of folks where you get in the habit of just emailing your bids. And if you only make the conversation about price and not about value, then it's not going to give you the results you're looking for, especially when you do any sort of marketing, any kind of marketing, even the best kind with Google and local services and Facebook ads or even things like that.
Yeah.
That in-person delivery is going to be the
and that's where it's a little bit difficult for me because I don't really always have to sell my value. It's always already been sold already, right? So then I don't really have to go too crazy with explaining them of what I do and what my, how long I've been in business for, what yada, 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 right?
But Michael, you did just sign up for a lead generator and we're about to get Google Local Services live. So those leads are going to be different animals. They are, and that is an adjustment when you're a business owner that's worked just off of referrals and repeat customers or subcontracted out for GCs. When you start getting leads from people just finding you on Google Local Services, Angie's, whatever, your sales process is going to have to be elevated and locked down in order to make the most of those leads. And we always tell clients, if you're going to sign up for Google Local Services or Angie's or any third-party lead generator, even if you're going to get a radio ad, which I would not recommend, whatever it is, any leads that come in from those, you're going to have to pursue aggressively or it will feel like a giant waste of money and time, and it will be. And so we always tell people third-party listing sites will always work for you if you work it. That's the caveat there. Jeff, I see your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to say about going and doing the estimate in person and then transitioning that to collecting a deposit. So my system allows them to pay, when I email the invoice, they can click a link and pay it. So what I've decided I'm going to do is just have that invoice already set up and then just while I'm there, email it to them from my phone, and they could just open it up right there and click and pay even while I'm there if they wanted to, or at the very minimum, by the time I leave, they'll have it. So that's what I plan on doing for that.
Yeah, that's great. A philosophy that we like to keep often related to that is we don't count it as a closed lead until money's exchanged or contract is signed, and rather both is when we consider it closed. So yeah, I think that's great to have it prepped and ready to go so that that's part of your closing process when you go.
Yep.
That's great. All right. Any other wins or good things that you guys want to share or talk about this morning before we jump into questions and insights? Go ahead, Jordan.
I just checked our thing out on our QuickBooks, and it looks like we're up 94% from what we were this time last year. Our margin's not great, but we also just we had a couple big purchases just come through.
You
So
purchased a building. You had a
yeah, and a van, just purchased a van too. So yeah, so but that's pretty cool to see.
That's awesome.
Huge.
That is awesome. 94%.
Yes. And that is so exciting, to see that growth. And also, when you're a younger company, there are going to be seasons where a lot of your profit is invested back into the business, and that's very normal. What we encourage is just keeping track of that. So at the end of the year, you're like, where did all these profits go? And it's like, well, we invested it back. That will settle down. You'll always have every year you'll have some investment that you have to do back in the business, but it will slow down as you grow, promise.
Yeah, we've been pretty pleased with our guys. So it's not 100% yet, but we're working on like implementing the guys' estimate off of our price book. And so like they haven't done it on 100% of the jobs yet, but each crew has gone out and independently bid at least one job and closed it, taken the job from start to completion. So that's also big too. I know that's over the next couple months, that's going to be our biggest hurdle, is pushing that work out of the field from what was in my lap.
Yeah.
But the price book is tough. I mean, I'm still not happy with it. I kind of took Profit Rhino and took the parts that I liked of it and got rid of the rest. And it's still like, I can tell it's still going to be something that's going to get tweaked over the next couple of years constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. Any price book is always going to need that constant assessment. And you want to do that anyways. Any sort of, I'll just say it this way. As a good rule of thumb, whether you're using a price book or doing your own pricing software or spreadsheet kind of template tool, you should be evaluating your prices twice a year, every 6 months at least, kind of on a regular basis. And that's kind of minimum. But with price books, you can do that more constant kind of adjustment. That's great though. Cool. Any other thoughts here before we transition over to questions? Any other wins, good things going on? Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and open it up here. If you have any questions, any things that are kind of burning fires or just scratches in the back of your brain, what things are going on in your world that we want to get some insight, collaboration from other business owners around the country doing same thing as you, and then also from all of our coaches here. What questions do we have? Go ahead, Mike.
So one of my things Nicole and I were speaking about it earlier, because I'm not sure how much it's coming up for other people because of how expensive things are still, and with equipment costs and things like that. Are you finding more and more people looking to try to finance with you more so than anything else? And if so, what kind of financing are you able to offer them? Because, when it came to I looked into it a little bit because I had a couple of customers come up and ask me about financing, and I called different companies that I was aware of through my suppliers, and they were around 15 months interest free. And then, the customer was like, well, I had somebody else offer me, which I don't even know the guy, but they were offering me like up to 5 years interest free. And I'm like, well, I can't offer that. I don't have that capability. It must be a bigger company. And they didn't really feel comfortable going with them. They rather deal with me. So it's like, well, I'm sorry. I mean, that's something I just can't do for you. But, and my pricing was less than theirs because I'm a smaller company. But it didn't matter to them because they just cared about the bottom was the fact that they didn't have to pay interest for 5 years, even though my price was almost half the cost,
Gotcha.
But I was just kind of curious to see what other people thought.
Yeah, so curious on if people, what their experience has been in terms of people asking for and using financing, and then if they use financing, what is it?
Right. Yeah. Basically.
Well,
That's it.
I've used companies like Hearth. I've heard of Green Sky, and none others that use them, but they're more like dealer financing. So they actually charge a dealer's fee every time you finance something. So you have to it almost feels like dirty because you have to add whatever that dealer fee is into your estimate. And it's hard to present estimates that way because it's like you have your standard pricing, but then if they finance, it's like, oh, well, we got to find a tricky way to add that or remove it if you don't finance it. So I chose to go with Enhancify for us, and they've worked really well. They don't charge dealer fees. And if you have a 650 credit score or higher, they pretty much guarantee you'll get one of their 0% finance options, which is in the form of a credit card. Generally, they'll do up to 21 months on that card, and then they'll get up to 30 or 40 other different offers. So I kind of like that format because when they sign up for it, it kind of removes you from having to do all the work of getting them there. So and we've had several customers use it and it's worked out great. So you might check out Enhancify.
Nice. Yeah, Jim.
I'll also add that just by one time we had a customer that I think I quoted about 10 or 11,000 in work, and he was considering only doing some of it. And I said, well, hey, I don't know if it makes any difference for you, but we do offer financing. And he was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And so he got on, looked at some of our offers, and then he went, he goes, you know what, I'm going to go talk to my bank. So he went and talked to his bank, found a better deal, and did the whole thing. And I didn't care. We just want to do the work because we get paid for our services. So just by having that option available brought up things that I didn't even realize would, work out like that. So another good reason to have it and offer it.
Jim, you had something you wanted to add in there?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit more about Enhancify with Jordan, since he's obviously, he's already dealt with them. We are doing financing through Moment, and we are using Green. Both of them do charge a fee, and it's very high. And to bake that into a project, we're general contractors. Some of our deals, they generally start anywhere between 30,000 and go up to about $500,000. And to bake that in is pretty tough because some of the rates that we've been hit with are 24%. And so to try to hide that or bake it in the beginning, we just started our company last year, and we felt that having financing, will change the market condition. So we did that. Unfortunately, there's been projects that we did do that the ROI was horrific because of it, because it ate into pretty much everything that we're making. So my question is that I actually looked up Enhancify. I'm literally brand new. This is my first day. I just signed up with you folks, I don't know, 2 days ago. Talked to Nicole yesterday, and I got a referral list from Hannah. So I'm incredibly neurotic. So I went through the whole list and looked at everybody's website on the referral list. And I did see some of the somebody with Enhancify. So I dug into it a little deeper, and I saw there's 3 programs, basically an entry level one, a mid one, and then obviously one that's a little bit more aggressive where you'll get instant access for clients. And my question for you, Jordan, I apologize for taking you for a long ride, but which one do you belong to, and which one, and why did you join that one?
If I remember correctly, we went with the middle option because we still wanted to have like the brand matched page and everything. The top one, I think the thing that includes extra is you get like an account manager, somebody you can talk to specifically every time if you have questions. I haven't really found a need for that because, you know, in the beginning, I had someone to kind of teach us a little bit about it, and there was a couple learning curves that we had. The other thing I didn't mention is Enhancify even has home equity loan options. So they'll have anything from credit cards to unsecured loans to home equity loans. Obviously, the process and length of time changes depending on which option they go with. But, you know, we do a lot of 10,000 and less projects. And so the credit card option works out great for us because we can get customers a 21 to 24 month option at 0% interest. And I lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with that. We figured out even in the 3,000 range that people would get turned down. So we would tell them, hey, you don't need 5,000 or 6,000, but to increase your chances of getting that, you may want to request 5,000 to 6,000 because lenders have minimums that they need, you know, in order to feel comfortable making something off of that. And so once we started making sure that customers request the proper amounts, it kind of changed easily how the success rate in terms of them getting approved. So I can't really speak to the larger loans, but I do know they take a little bit longer. But the great part is they have those options available.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And I'll add in here too, Jim, and Mike initially, that yeah, we do recommend having financing at least available. The 2 that I see the most commonly are Hearth and Enhancify, and between the 2, I would recommend Enhancify because you have a better rate, and they also just provide more at that rate. I think it's like the annual fee, Jordan. It's just one annual fee.
Yeah, I think our annual fee was somewhere around 1,500, somewhere in there. And the other thing I would say is in that 10 to 20,000 range, I'm pretty sure they have options closer to like 11%. 20 plus is just ridiculous. So, you know, if somebody's going with a much larger project, they have some decent rates for that as well.
Well, yeah, they're offering 0%, so I can get 0% for 5 years. I can literally get that rate. I can get up to $250,000. The problem that I have is that I'm getting hit with a dealer fee. I just got a dealer fee increase to 30%. So yeah, so that's
why they're offering 5 years.
Yeah, because I'm paying for it. I'm paying the VIG. So that's why when you started talking about it, I was already looking into it. But our biggest problem, we're a new company. Nobody wanted to finance me. I literally sent out 30 emails, letters, because, you know, we're a new company. They don't, you know, nobody wants to partner up with the new guy. You know, our DUN score was new and it was not great. So nobody wanted to partner. So, you know, whoever would partner with me, the devil, I guess I'm partnered with the devil. And that's what I did. And I partnered with Green again because I wanted to have 2 options. So I have 2 options now. The Green is a larger one. And the Moment does up to $100,000. And you're right. All the dealers will not do a transaction under 5 Gs. So that's very common that I've seen. I did a lot of homework on it, and especially when somebody wanted to even be my friend, and do business with me. So I wanted to make sure how bad I'm going to get screwed. I'm okay with it because I built a book of business off it, nothing substantial, but enough that I have proven concept of it, so that when I do go to an Enhancify, if they require more information, then I will have the ability to give that to them and say, hey, listen, we've already done this. I understand the process. Our team has been educated on how to do the loans. But it's probably crucial that, we have to switch. We have to switch out of this because it's not cost effective for our company. But again, when nobody will partner with you, the devil looks amazing. So.
Yeah, I would say that too. If you're having to take the loan out on behalf of the customer, there are better options than that. And Ansify is for the customer, through the customer. So you're not acting as a bank or basically a co-signer on their own loan.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. That's not how that works. I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you. That's not how it works. It's basically the same setup as Enhancify, where we have a page that they made for us, and we could send them out a link, and then they could fill it out on their own, put their information. It's a soft check, not a hard check. So so it's all done that way. What I liked about both of those companies don't get the money. So it's direct to consumer, not direct to customer. So that money is only earmarked for us. So that's why I liked it so I've done it for other clients and they're like, well, can I use somebody else? I'm like, listen, I'm not a bank. I'm a construction company and I'm not here to get you great rates. I'm here to help you get to what you want, which is construction. And I'm here to get you the funding. But to deal with anything more than that, I'm not interested. But yeah, Enhancify sounds amazing.
Yeah, good deal. I am curious on this topic before we move on to another question, just the general consensus of the other part of what Mike asked, which is, in general, have you seen more people taking or using the financing route across the board? I've got my perspective, but curious what others out there are seeing.
And that doesn't have to mean financing through like whatever you're set up with, but just like they're having to get through their bank or whatever, they're financing jobs.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in that, a little bit more interest. Because like even some people who have the cash, sometimes they want to keep the cash and finance it so that they've got a little bit more of a safety net, through the more uncertain times. But it also could be we're doing a lot more business since being with you guys too. So I got to make sure to factor that in as well. So the chances of getting somebody who wants to finance are probably a bit higher as well. But that attitude certainly feels like it's there in the market right now.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree, and I don't mean to overstep anybody, and I apologize. Unfortunately, when we have a 10-year treasury yield that's escalating, money is going to become more expensive. So it's smarter to take the money and put it in a bond. So why wouldn't you? I mean, I've had clients use the 0% financing, completely honest, and they could have paid cash, and they used it for 12 months and hedged the project with basically the bank's money. And we paid the VIG on it. And I know why they did it, because it's a no-brainer play. I mean, you could take your money and take 4%, make 4% on your money. If it's $100,000, you made $4,000 using the bank's money. So it's just a no-brainer. So we are seeing an uptick in it. And I think that it may be, unfortunately, the future, because it's still cheaper than a credit card. A credit card is going to whack you with a rate. If you're using Amex, you got to pay it off. Usually within that, that next month pay period. If you have regular credit cards, you can pay up to 22% on the VIG. So a 0% is a no-brainer. It's just, I have to look more and Enhancify, but the program sounds amazing.
Yeah. And one thing that Jordan mentioned earlier that I just want to emphasize is it's okay if like they don't use your financing, but you just mentioning that can cause that in their mind, because they could just be focused on, oh my gosh, I don't want to drain my savings. This is huge. Like, this is going to really, be an investment. I won't have that cash on hand. And then you say, hey, by the way, I don't know, is financing something that you're interested, or is that something that you want to look into or want our help with? And you can even have that conversation in that first initial phone call, which might help get the temperature on how serious they are. If they're like, oh, well, I haven't really even thought about how I'm going to pay for this job. Well, that's a bit of a red flag, that they maybe just watched too much HGTV last weekend, and got excited and they don't have any money for this. And so having that conversation is great. Dale Eads, he owns Arnold's Plumbing. And he says that House Call Pro does have financing through them through WiseTac. That might be an easy solution for those of you who are already using House Call Pro. So that might be a great option as well. And I love, Maria, you put financing on your website or social media too. That's something that Jordan mentioned earlier, is if you do use Enhancify, or a lot of the different companies actually, they'll give you a piece of code that we can put on your website, which makes it really easy for people to apply. And then if you're using CMM, our CRM system, we'd be able to take your customer list and send a mass email and text saying, hey, we now offer financing. Apply through here or call us today for more information. And that could really cause dead leads to become warm again. So it's definitely not a negative thing, having financing. It's never going to hurt you. What other questions do we have today? What issues are you running into? What feedback are you looking for?
I got a question.
Tell us, Jordan.
So we're moving to performance-based pay, and so we do mostly service. And my question is kind of what others' experiences are once they move to that. And I'll add that our performance-based pay is basically for technicians who, go to the call, price the call, perform the work, and collect the call. And so one attitude I'm seeing shifted is where they don't want to give calls to other people, which is great because now they're most likely staying and doing that. So my goal is hopefully to kind of dilute the calls and be able to add more technicians. And so what effect has that had on sales and how, busy those technicians stay? Are they doing fewer calls with more revenue? What's been the experience for others that do that if they have?
Would love to get advice from a client. If any client has feedback, either in the chat or on mute.
We can definitely jump in on some of that, but anybody's got firsthand experience with having made a transition or using performance-based pay, merit-based pay, incentive structure, what that's been like?
Hopefully I'll be the one answering that question very soon.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I would think that most of us would like to do some form of that, but it seems so scary and tricky. I've tried it in other businesses, and just getting the structure of it just right. It's very complicated in my experience, but I do like to see forms of it. And so if anybody does try anything, let us know how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's not completely merit based, I know that, or like even if their full compensation package is not performance based, even putting an incentive structure in is really valuable. And I know, Chris, if you're able to, I think you just had recently been doing that with a couple of guys on your team and seeing some success with that.
Yeah, we implement it. We have both hourly and performance incentives on commission or things that they sell extra at the jobs that we've already contracted and stuff like that. And it seems to have worked. And we also recently implemented, like in the last 3 days, implemented consequences against their commission if they make like blaring repetitive mistakes. We actually give a grace period for making mistakes that they've already made before. But then if they make them again, they actually get that deducted from their commission. So we're not affecting their base hourly pay because they do all make a base hourly that's decent, but we'll penalize their commission if they make mistakes that we're seeing that are happening that are actually costing us money. And then also making a hard margin on certain things, somewhere between 15 to 25%, that depending on what it is, because we do different things, that they have to maintain to actually receive their bonuses. So like that if we make money, they make money. They don't just receive their bonuses because they did the job. We have to make money on the job. If they had to call back extra labor or use more materials, that goes against their they're not paying for it out of their pocket. It's just their ability to collect the bonus that they thought they were giving would be deducted based on what they did not maintain for our benchmark standards of 15, 20, or 25% that they had to make the company.
What's that do for their overall attitude and company morale?
We just implemented it on Friday, so it was taken with mixed emotions. Some were like, "This is awesome." You know, one guy was like, "Dude, this is awesome. This is amazing." We also are paying out for every review that every individual gets. And one guy took it to heart. He's already got us, like, since Friday at 2:00, he's got us like 4 new 5-star reviews on Google, like, because we're giving them, $10 cash for every on the spot for every review they garnish. And he's like talking to everybody. And so, so that 2 of them really took it to heart and started really, getting excited about it. So it's to be determined how it's going to, play out, but I think it can be good. We needed to implement it to help rein in some of our costs that were costing us, the company, a lot of money that we shouldn't be covering.
Yeah. It will motivate an A player. Those people who are just trying to collect a paycheck, it will really piss off. And that's okay. It's okay for that to happen, It doesn't mean that sometimes those people who get really pissed off in the beginning, once they see like how easy it is for this one guy and how much they're earning, sometimes they will shape up. Otherwise, it's okay if they ship out. Merit-based pay is going to really motivate an A player. And we highly encourage it. You can do it in many different forms. My favorite for service companies, so my plumbers, electricians, HVAC, if you have a minimum that each van needs to bring in, each tech, in a given 40-hour work week, we're not counting overtime, just in a normal week. Let's say that it's $6,000. If they hit that $6,000, the minimum, they get $100 bonus. And then for every $500 on top of that, they get $50. And I'm just throwing out numbers here, guys, but this is actually a method that one of my plumbers does use. And he doesn't put a cap on it, because why would he? He wants to incentivize them to sell more and to do more work. So it doesn't include, overtime, but having that kind of bare minimum and incentivizing them with bonuses for doing extra is a great way to do that. For callbacks, I feel like that's more of a stick than a carrot situation. If somebody's getting callbacks, they have to do that on their own time, or it gets taken out of their paycheck. We already paid you once to do it. We're not paying you, again to do it. That's your responsibility. But if you have a crew lead or a project manager who is in charge of making sure the quality is good and there's no callbacks, you can absolutely incentivize them. If we have a month of no callbacks, things are running really smooth, they get a certain bonus for doing that. And so there's so many different ways that we can incentivize the activities that you guys are going to want to see. but we also want to make sure that we've got a carrot and a stick. We're not going to give somebody a bonus for showing up to work on time consistently. That's just part of the job requirement. But we might have a punishment, a consequence if they aren't, you know, so the carrot and sticks.
Yeah, I've been around a company doing the incentive just for showing up for attendance, and that ended up biting them pretty hard. You don't want to do incentives around just the normal activities. They had to backtrack on that, and it led to some negative company culture for a little bit that had to be reworked. So I definitely agree with that point that Nicole said. Cool. Any other questions here this morning? Could be related to that or totally unrelated. Either way.
I like the idea. I'm struggling to come up with a format to roll it out or to implement, just because we're not a service-based company. And that's the only thing that I'm thinking. I actually brought this up, I think, in one of the last meetings, was asking the question, anybody else currently has that follows a standard model. It's not a service-based company, for incentivized pay. Any ideas or any suggestions?
Yeah, for sure. So what Chris was sharing, he's not a service-based company. He's a remodeler, general contractor, and then some landscape work on the side as well. So the incentives we ended up making were based around the need points or the pain points of your business. So where you want to see people improve, that's where you make the incentives around. So it can be on time and materials on their estimating side. It could be on creating contacts, like if they build relationships in a way that can be beneficial to the company. Collections could be one thing for office staff. That would be a couple initial suggestions there, but yeah, I'll let anybody else speak if they'd like to.
I'll speak on the one that we implemented that's unique, since we're not service based. Since guys can directly control my pocketbook in a sense, as far as spend money on the credit card and stuff like that, we made an incentive. There's a budget for every job, labor budget and a material budget for every job, and they know that budget, and that's the target that is okay to spend. I actually gave them, for whatever below that they hit, let's say they were allowed to spend 500 on labor and 500 on materials, hypothetically, and that's what they're allowed to spend. And then we charged, whatever we charge. Let's say we charged 1,500 for the job, and they're allowed to spend 500 labor, 500 materials. Whatever the difference they got below that, let's say they ended up only spending $800 on where they could have spent 1,000. They get 25% of the difference. So 25% of 200, of the 200 that they saved. Instead of 1,000, it was 800. They get 25% of that. So they get the $50 just for saving the company $200. They had 1,000 to spend. Whatever they did, whether they got the guys at cheaper rates, they spent less time, they spent less materials, they get in their personal pockets $50 for creating that $200 in savings. And that was actually super well received, because they're like, oh man, now we see a direct correlation to us saving the company money. It comes back into our pockets.
Any other thoughts on that, guys? Or do you have specific? Alec, I see your hand up. Do you have a question? Comment?
Yeah, so I have a comment. We have like our master carpenter. He's a leader, and he has his helpers and everything. And I've always felt like probably the past 5 years, I'm like, I wish we could pay him more, but he won't let us pay him more because he's worried about taxes, that it's going to put him in a different tax bracket, and then he's going to owe more in taxes and end up making less money. I mean, is there any advice to get around that?
Be happy you have that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, but
Oh, give the guy gift cards.
Yeah.
Gift cards, take him to lunch, give him just cash.
Is he willing
Yeah.
to relocate?
No, he actually lives about 15 minutes away from where we're based out of. So he's lived in his house for 20 years. He's an old school type of guy, doesn't like change,
That's what I'm sensing. Doesn't like change. I would, if you have a CPA or a tax professional or somebody that you use, I would maybe just take the situation to him and say, hey, what would it look like for this guy? If he bumped into this bracket, what would the difference be? And just because sometimes, like, this guy could have just been told something years ago that, hey, when you start making blank, your taxes suck. And he really doesn't actually know, what it would actually look like. So I would come with some facts maybe to like build his confidence. But I do love what Dale just put in the chat. Buy him some cool hand tools. This might be a guy where he's very comfortable with what he makes and he doesn't really give a shit to make more money.
Yeah.
But it might be really special to him if you did buy him some cool hand tools or a cool like storage for his shop. If he has like a garage where he keeps his tools in, you buy him something like that. Or, there's different things that you could do that might be more impactful for a guy like that. Like, I know I have a client where her office gal doesn't really care about incentives for money, but if she hits a certain amount of reviews, they'll go to lunch and then go get manicures and pedicures afterwards. And that's like her little special gift that they do, instead of her getting a bonus. I'm somebody where I'm extremely money motivated. So like throw the bonuses at me, but not everybody is that way. And so I think that would be a creative solution. But I would talk to your CPA or accountant to just get a really good factual, what would it look like if this guy made more money? How could I maybe explain it to him where he feels more comfortable,
Yeah. See, I think, his van he's been driving that same van for 25 years. And it's like all of our trucks, I just bought a new truck. We got a new trash truck for our other employee. And it's like, I feel like maybe we could get him a new truck and some tools and then maybe talk about, having him get paid some more. Cause it's like, I feel like, he's one of the employees that he's a money maker and he deserves that, but he just doesn't want change, and I'm like, dude, the van that you drive, the doors are falling off. So, and he's like, oh, well, we can fix that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I think it's time for a new van for him or something, just to, show him that we do appreciate everything he does. So.
Yeah.
Alec, I think you're making everybody in here jealous.
Of this employee. Yeah.
People are just drooling over this guy.
Yeah. See, and another thing is like this guy, like it's kind of hard to grow our business with this guy because he's like an old school hateful person. And I've been working with him since I was 14. And we've had people quit on the first, 30 minutes of, work of their starting their job. And we've had, I've like lost my mind working with him, just being like put down and stuff like that. So it is kind of toxic being around this guy, but you can learn a lot from him and he's a hard worker. Like, it's like, it's hard to let somebody like that go. But what we've tried to do is like, instead of just having one helper that's not going to take that misery for that long, it's like, I try to, relieve that stress by having like two helpers to kind of, even out the workload.
Yeah. With somebody like that, Alec, you could totally like give him the new van or something and say, hey, you are an earner. You do a great job. You know, here are all of the good things. I want to give you this van. I want to give you this tool set, whatever. What I want to see us maybe improve on is complaining a little bit less around the other guys. You know, like we call it a shit sandwich, where it's you want to compliment them. Here's what you're doing really, really well. Here's what we need to improve on. By the way, so appreciate you again. This is, you do a lot of things right. You know, just want to see these corrected. But I want to let you know how grateful I am for you, which is why I'm giving you this, you know. And so address that behavior, because if it bugs you, I guarantee you it's driving your other guys nuts, you know. And you never know how much it is until you address it.
Yeah, because one of our employees, he's been working with him for a little over a year now. And my dad said, you know, he's like, can you check on Eric? Because he seems like he's going like dark or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's because of the stress of working with that guy. You know, it's like, and I can't grow as a person working with somebody like that. Like, I'm not going to clean your bucket out. I went to college. I, you know, have done everything I was supposed to do. And it's like, I do my own jobs now because, and I have my own helper. So we have like 2 crews now, but it's hard, you know, and they come together.
It could be a guy like that. We're like, hey, if you can't correct this behavior, I can't give you a helper. Like, I'm not going to do that to one of my guys who's doing their best, putting them with somebody who is putting them down and not treating them properly, and it ruins their day. And so like either we're going to have to be more positive and treat our team better, and I'm gonna have to trust you with that, or I've got to send you out on your own. You know, like these are the 2 options here. And if you want to be by yourself, I'm more than happy to do that for you. You know, it's, if this is a good guy in a lot of ways, and that's just the one little thing, which is kind of a big thing, you know, it's like, here's our options to solving that. What would you like to do? And equip him to make the decision. It's like, hey, this is the problem. I'm equipping you to solve it. Either you're going to be by yourself, or we're going to see attitude change.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your input on that.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a couple more minutes here today, guys. Any thoughts? Final questions, thoughts? Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, guys, really appreciate you making this meeting happen here today, being here this morning, despite the snow and the weather that most people are dealing with. If you need anything, if you have any questions, reach out to your coach. That's what we're here for. Book a laser call, shoot us an email. We'll get back to you. But we're going to end this group call with a big 3, 2, 1 growth. So if I could get everybody to unmute. I'm hearing the noises. People are unmuting. We're going to do 3, 2, 1. Growth.
Growth.
Guys.
All right.